Hey everyone. So the other day I had a question from a developer if we could pull files from multiple repositories into the one project. It was for a deployment for a PHP-based web application, but the same logic applies to any scenario. So let's get into it and take a look. Okay, so the setup's like this. We've got a demo DevOps organization with a project for the multi-repo merge that I've set up here just for the demo. In the project, we've got two repositories. And I thought to make things a little bit interesting, would add in a third GitHub-based repository. So we've got the default repository that come with the project, and I've created this second DevOps repo 2 here. Pull the files from both repositories and merge them together with this third repository, which is based in GitHub. So the first thing to set up is the connection to the GitHub repository. So go to repos under here. You've already got your two existing ones. And under service connections, I've pre-created this one already. What you do is create a new service connection, choose GitHub and follow the wizard through. It'll ask you for some authorization and it will allow you to choose from all the organizations or repositories that you have access to. So I've already chosen this Hybrid NZ demo organization and the GitHub repo 3. And the service connection name here, this automatically got generated, github.com_Chris Turk. You can edit that as appropriate, but you'll be using this name in the YAML file. So the next thing to do is go to pipelines to create your build pipeline. So let's create the pipeline. We're going to use an Azure DevOps repo, and I'm just going to choose the first default repository here. And let's create a new pipeline from scratch. Okay, delete this existing code. And here's one I created earlier. And let's just walk through this code. What I'll also do is add in the description, the Microsoft documentation for both the multi-repo checkout and also the copy jobs that we're going to be doing here. When I first read this, I found this a little bit confusing, the way that it's set out, which I guess is the point of this video. Here's the copy jobs documentation. The copy job's pretty straightforward. We're just going to be using in our demo here the two stars, so we'll copy all of the folders, files, and the subfolders and merge them into our output artifact. The multiple repository checkout documentation is a little bit more confusing. So what I'm going to show here is a combination of external repositories, which is these resources that get set out the start of the YAML file, and you'll see that with our external GitHub repository. And where you've got a repository within your same DevOps organization, you can use this inline syntax here. So let's take a quick look at that. So under resources, I'm essentially declaring the service connection that we created earlier, which is to our GitHub repository over here. This name is just the name of my own making. We're just going to use that as a reference in the steps you can see down here. The type here is GitHub. The endpoint is referring to the name that was created for the service connection. So if I were to change the name of the service connection to be a little bit more meaningful, I'd have to come back and change this endpoint. And then this name here is referring to the organization, or if it's not an organization, it would be the user name of GitHub and the repository that we're pulling information from. So you can see that here. The organization that I'm in is Hybrid NZ Demo, and the repository that we're using is GitHub Repo 3. So currently got it set to trigger automatically on a commit to the main branch. This is kind of by the by. It's not really the point of this demo. The key steps here is that we check out the three repositories that we want to use. So the checkout self, that's going to check out the main repository, which is multi-repo merge, this one. And then the second checkout, we're going to refer to the second repository within the DevOps organization in the same project. So that's this DevOps repo 2. And I've put a tag on the end here. I don't actually need to put that, but I just wanted to show that if we had a different branch that wasn't the main branch, I could specify perhaps development there if we had a development branch. So I've put in that. We're checking out the repository that we have declared earlier in the resources step here. So what happens here is when you check out multiple repositories, the code has an S appended to the file path. Whereas if you just have a single repository, the code gets checked out to a build agent directory, which is essentially C drive agent work 1. But when you have a subfolder, it will add an S, and then it will create a folder which is the name of the repository you're checking out. So in our case, we're going to check out the repository which is named multi-repo merge. It's going to create that folder multi-repo merge. So in our copy job, when we're copying from multi-repo merge, our source folder is going to have that /s/ multi-repo merge on it, which will pull the root of our repository. And we're going to copy all the files and subfolders into our staging directory. So very similar for the second copy task. It's going to create a folder with that /s for a subfolder and the name of the repository, DevOps Repo 2, and we're just going to copy all that stuff as well. And then finally, our GitHub repository, it's going to create a folder. Again, the folder name is based on the repository name, GitHub Repo 3, not the name that I declared in the earlier step. And then finally, once we've copied all the files into our staging artifacts directory, then we're going to zip them all up and drop them off as an artifact. So let's take a look at that. Once the artifact is dropped off, you can use it for essentially build or release tasks. So let's save that and run. Right, so the first time you run this pipeline, it's going to want permission, and that permission is going to be to the secondary repository. So it's asking for permission to this DevOps Repo 2 repository here. So let's go ahead and allow that. That's a one-time thing. You won't need to run that the next time the pipeline runs. Okay, now if we dig into the tasks here as they fly past, you'll be able to see the checkouts occurring, and here is the repository path that we talked about earlier with the agent path up to that one, and then the subfolder path because we have multiple repositories, and the file, the folder name which matches the name of the repository for each checkout. And then we've got our copy going on here, so it's finding all of the files from that repository and iterating through them and copying them, which is essentially just these files here. So once all those tasks are done and we create the archive and upload that as an artifact, let's check out the result. Okay, great. So here's our artifact, and we can download that to check if what we've expected to happen has happened. You can see that I've run this pipeline a couple of times before. Okay, so we've created an artifact with a combination of the files from repo 1, repo 2, repo 3, and the files from the root of each repo, and it's been merged together into that one folder. And each of the subfolders has brought with it the files that were in their respective folders. And that's it. That's how you check out files from multiple repositories and merge them together if you need to. Hopefully you find that helpful. If you did, then please like and subscribe. If there's anything else that you'd like me to show, then let me know in the comments.